So as it is, I've made a lot of progress on this J.C. Penney stereo. I've gotten the doors fixed. As you can see, they're both in place here. I decided to fix both of them the same way. The way I did this, because the magnets that are built into these areas here, these little push button thingies, those magnets are completely dead, and I couldn't figure a way of finding anything that looked even remotely like them other than to try and maybe order a random magnet assortment from someplace online. So I went to the local hardware store and I found these little arts and crafts magnets. I took off the old metal tabs on the door and I super glued these on, and then I super glued two magnets to one another so it would have the right thickness and the doors wouldn't appear to bow inwards. And now it works beautifully. It's got just enough magnetic force to keep it closed and to let it open when I desire to do that. But then I got to having another idea. Thought that it would be nice in this day and age to have a CD player to go with the stereo. But there's really no good place to just set a CD player alongside this thing, especially when it'll be in my bedroom when all is said and done. So I decided that I was going to semi-permanently install this CD player in the unit by mounting it right underneath the bottommost stereo component, in this case the tape deck. And to facilitate doing that, I have a couple of these things that I painted black so they'll match the interior. Got a couple of screws, and although this will involve modifying the unit to some degree, and it'll ruin the ability to store records in the bottom, unless of course I want to lay them flat, which would not be good for them, so I'm not going to do that. This is completely reversible if I should ever desire to use the bottom area for the storage of records. Now the trick to doing this, a conventional CD player is just a little bit too big to fit in there. So this realistic CD 2300 from eBay, which dates to about 1987 but looks to be in very good shape and works just fine, this is a little smaller than a normal stereo component, and so it fits in there just about perfectly, and after a little bit of cleanup it looked brand new again. It's funny how far we've come. When this thing sold in Radio Shack's 1988 catalog, thanks to whoever pointed out that Radio Shack catalog's website, that thing is fantastic. It's also a humongous time sink. I could have spent hours in there. But this thing shows up in exactly one catalog, and that's the 1988 catalog. Shows up as costing over $200 when it was new, and it's their entry-level CD player. When you think that in this day and age you can probably buy a CD player for less than $30, it's just amazing how far we've come. But let me get started on putting that thing in there. In order to do this, I have to screw those brackets into the sidewalls here, and they'll all have to be level. So I bought a level that is a pretty good fit to go in there. It was either too big or too small, and I figured that being slightly too big wouldn't really hurt anything because I can always do crisscross leveling, which will work. Anyway, let me get started. And now, just to give you an idea, here's what the finished installation looks like. There's the CD player tucked in underneath there. Now it doesn't butt up solid against the back of the receiver cabinet, so I've got a way of fixing that. As it happens, I intercepted this big piece of foam on its way to the trash from work. So my idea is to take measurements of how much dead space there is behind the CD player, cut out a block of foam that fits it exactly and doesn't interfere with any of the connectors on the back, and then, using a hot glue gun, glue that to the back of the stereo receiver cabinet and to the CD player, and then have it butt up against the back of the stereo cabinet, so there's no way that normal operation of the CD player can cause it to fall off and fall inside there, which it could do right now since there's dead space behind it, and that wouldn't be good for it. Now there's the cables run to the outside. Got the CD player hooked to the first auxiliary input, and the power cord just comes right straight out of the back to be plugged into the wall. There are no auxiliary power outlets on this receiver. And there, just so you can see it, is the foam block that serves to keep the CD player in approximately the right place within the stereo cabinet. But all in all, I think the finished result looks very good. So why don't we just test it out with some music? How about some movie music from a movie that I thought was very good? And if you haven't seen it, perhaps you should. I didn't even think the sequel was too bad, given what they had to do it with. Anyway, we'll just pop this in here. Turn this down a little bit so I don't get a surprise. I was playing the tape deck a minute ago. And this is just your garden variety, of course, a realistic CD 2300 CD player, made in 1987 and featured in the 1988 Radio Shack catalog. So here we go. This is another Time Warner album. Oh, what a little risk taker I am. Oh well. Here goes. I ended up buying some JBL 2600 loudspeakers on eBay. The previous owner kept them in amazing shape. Take the grill off here and you can see that the foam surrounds aren't even rotted. So there you have it, folks. This Penney MCS 2230 stereo system is now fully restored, equipped to play audio CDs, just working great. It seems to work better with these JBL speakers, although they're not a match to the cabinet. I'd hoped they might be, but I guess the photo on eBay was showing me the way things really weren't. But they'll do. I'm not that sensitive about the decor. The big thing is that the CD player's in place and seems to be working just fine. The cassette deck's working great, turntable works, the controls are all clean and doing their thing. So now I've just got to get my room remodeled. Oh, and there is one more thing. I did finally make some, look at how clean that glass is. Multi-surface cleaner with vinegar. Stuff works great. I made a set of right proper speaker wires for this thing. I went to Radio Shack and I bought some speaker wire, which is 24 gauge speaker wire. Really, it's a lot thinner than I expected it would be. I would have expected it would be just a little bit thicker. I think they were kind of cheaping out on me there. But I also bought their solder type connectors for phono plugs. And I'll tell you what, I would not buy those. It was a Herculean effort to get those things to take solder. But all in all, given the results of it, I think I'm really happy with the way that it turned out.